Yo, what's up internet? It's your boy Vegabomber doing the last of my Star Wars The Force Awakens character study, and this time we're going to talk about Kylo Ren. So, what do we know about Kylo Ren? Well, we see in the very beginning frames of this movie, the first 20 minutes I would say, and by the way, that first 20 minutes, excellent. Love the first 20 minutes of The Force Awakens. So what we see is Kylo Ren coming out of the ship, which is kind of reminiscent of Darth Vader emerging from the smoke coming onto a ship. He's coming off with the smoke coming up, or the exhaust from the lift of the door going down. And so we're automatically, right off the bat, getting this imagery that's supposed to suggest Man in Black, like that other Man in Black that you like, Darth Vader, right? But this is Kylo Ren. So we know that Kylo Ren is also the son of Princess Leia and Han Solo. We don't know if they ever got married. We just kind of assumed that they did, but for whatever reason, they had a son, and whether they were married or not, they had a son, and his name is Ben Solo, which is an interesting concept, by the way, because we know that Star Wars is always about father and sons, right? Luke, Anakin, the whole thing, Ben Kenobi being this grandfather figure, if you will, talking to the young lad and trying to help him understand what his true parentage is or what his true destiny is. Well, this time what we have is Kylo Ren, who's kind of been touted as the villain, and really what he is he's a conflicted, weak 30-something. So Kylo Ren, his first couple of scenes, loved it. I love the fact that he walked in, he was in charge, he was menacing. When he walked, they had the heavy sounds of his feet whenever he walked, almost like Godzilla walking or whatever. And what was interesting about him also was just that he was able to, without even looking, someone fires, it was Poe Dameron fired a plasma shot at him from a blaster, and he wasn't even looking, he turned around and froze it. I think everybody loved that scene because it was awesome. We hadn't seen anybody do that. We saw Darth Vader in Empire Strikes Back deflect some plasma bolts, but we hadn't seen anybody suspend it and freeze it. So we do know this about Ben Solo. He's definitely Force enabled and Force sensitive, and he's definitely got a different skill set with it. He's really worked on it, and it's pretty awesome to see that. In fact, the fact that he can rip things out of people's minds and read their minds, whether they're willing or not willing, is, well, it's unparalleled. We hadn't seen anybody do that. So not only can he sense the presence of his dad, like Darth Vader is sensing the presence of Ben Kenobi, but he also can read things out of your mind, read really easily. So when he tortures Poe Dameron and gets it out of him, incredible. And then I would say later on in the film, when he's another good scene for Kylo Ren, actually when he goes down to Takodana, which is where Maz Kanata's little joint is, when he goes after Rey, when he's told that the girl and the droid went into the woods to the west. So he takes off and goes that way. Everybody else is fighting and shooting and blasting and all this stuff, but he just says, nah, I'm on mission, I'm on point. I'm going to go get this girl, or at least get the robot, but he couldn't get BB-8, the droid, but he got the girl instead. And so I thought that was an incredible scene where, again, she's trying to fire at him. And you see, for those of you who say he doesn't have good lightsaber skills, which is the only reason why he lost to Rey, no. You see good lightsaber skills here because he deflects every one of her blasts, and then eventually he just freezes her arm. That's right, he freezes her arm. But what happens next is even better than that, because we saw him freeze stuff earlier. The idea that he's able to again start to get stuff out of her mind, and then because the soldier said, hey sir, we need more troops, he said pull the troops out, it was time to go. He says we have what we need. It was cool that he could just snap his finger and she just fell out. We'd never seen somebody use the Force to that level where they can put somebody to sleep, and Kylo Ren does. So again, Kylo Ren, the Force powers, how he's presented in the first 25 minutes, yes, I was all for Kylo Ren. I loved what he was doing. I thought it was incredible. I was like, yes, about time we did something different besides just Force lightning. So yeah, I was glad to see Kylo Ren do that. So at first, I liked Kylo Ren. I really did. But here's the rub, folks. As a character, I really decided at some point as the movie kept going, like the more he kept taking off his helmet, the more I started to not fear him. At that moment, he was no longer a threat. He was no longer a menace. In fact, he was just this conflicted little kid in a man's body. That's all he was. And I think that was enough for me to go, Okay, not so much. Because see, you're being advertised as like Darth Vader in the trailers and the videos and what you've seen. And of course, the movie wants to show you that he's not Darth Vader. He's not like Darth Vader. He's just a poser or a fanboy. And we get that. But that doesn't make him a proper villain, though. A hero can be conflicted. So he's conflicted. Okay, great. We got a bad guy who's conflicted. Yay. I think it would have worked better if we'd understood why. Why does Kylo Ren hate his dad so much? We don't get that in the film. We get some things that you can try to interpret that way when Princess Leia is saying that, you know, she tried to send him off to the school so he could be trained by Luke and all that stuff. So you could read into that some abandonment issues. But again, that's a lot of reading into and a lot of speculation. What I would rather have seen is you show us a flashback there. Show us why is this little boy. We get a flashback of Rey, her being a little girl and her parents leaving, and that was just enough for us to understand why she feels the way she feels. But there really wasn't anything here to help us understand why Kylo hates how he was able to destroy the knights, the young Padawans of Luke, and how Luke was able to let that happen. And then Snoke coming in and influencing them, because that's what Princess Leia says. She says it was Snoke. It was Snoke who turned him. So I think that's difficult. It's hard for me to look at a villain who now no longer is menacing or threatening. In fact, he's just a very common, everyday, regular dude. He's just a dude that's conflicted because he's got family issues, which by now is a trope within itself. So, I get it. I get the people that say, I like Kylo Ren because at least he's different, he's complex, and he's not just a one-note villain. But at the same time, I'll also push back on you and say, but, look at who the best villains are in cinematic history. Most of them are kind of one note. Heath Ledger's Joker, anyone? Darth Vader until you get to Return of the Jedi. I mean, these are some of the greatest villains. So I don't think, and from my perspective, I don't think I need to know every backstory to every villain. In fact, I love the fact that Joker kept telling you a different story as to how he got these scars. He kept everybody off balance. Because at the end of the day, who cares how Joker became the Joker? He needs to be stopped. He needs to be put down. He's like a rabid dog. If he gets a hold of some people, he could do who knows what, right? So in that light, or if you take Norman Bates' Psycho, or you could go on with Hannibal Lecter, or you could go with Jigsaw, you could go, Lord Voldemort, Sauron. I mean, sure, one-note characters, but people remember them as being villainous. And what we got here is a villain who's really not a villain because he's not villainous. He's not scary. And that would have been okay if he was just a character, but you were positioning him, marketing, J.J. Abrams, as if, hey, this is the Darth Vader in this trilogy. And instead what we got, again, was somebody actually worse than Anakin as far as I'm concerned. Some people said he was better than Anakin. At least he was better realized than the way Anakin was. Maybe. But at the end of the day, if he's the villain, villains need to be villainous. And I gotta tell you, I wasn't worried or scared about him. Anybody that can throw temper tantrums and lose their mind is a mental midget. The greatest villains, think about Angus from, what was it? No Country of Older Men, or No Country of No Older Men, or you know what that movie's about. When you see a villain who's mentally a midget, then it's easy for the hero to beat him. So there's no big thing to that. Remember, the bigger and the badder the villain, the bigger the better the hero is if he can stop him. I mean, that's just villain writing 101. So being conflicted, no, that's not bad, but conflicted is more of him really just being weak, right? I'll give you an example. Look at Luke Skywalker, right? Well, Luke Skywalker was not conflicted. He realized when he was training with Yoda, it was either stay there and train with Yoda or go save his friends. He wasn't acting like, ah! He didn't do all that. He just said, well, sorry, this isn't going too well for me anyway, but whether that be the case, I can sense that Leia and Han Solo are in trouble. I'm going to go save my friends, right? Not conflicted. When he went to go talk to his father, he said he was good in him, I know it. That's what he told Leia. That's what he was going to go do. He wasn't conflicted about that. He knew what he needed to do, and that's why you loved Luke as a hero. Well, as a villain, the reason why we love Darth Vader is because he was committed to what he was doing. He believed that the Empire was correct in the way they were seeing things, and that the Jedi were the problem. And so let's stomp out these rebels, the people who would be in the way. And he did it mercilessly. He was not conflicted. So to say, well, we needed him because we needed somebody who was conflicted, that just makes him more interesting. Maybe, but in all that confliction, if he loses his ruthlessness, his maniacalness, his coldness, his psychological advantage over his opponent, then he's really just a weakling. And the hero can easily defeat somebody like that. It's kind of like Malekith. Malekith was easy for Thor to beat. Heck, Frigga, Thor's mom, kicked his butt in Malekith's butt. And then Thor did it too, so it wasn't even fair. So at this point, I'll say what's troubling about this is where does Kylo Ren go for here? I mean, if you get your butt kicked by Rey, which he does at the end of this movie, right? And by the way, the people are saying, oh, well, it's because he was shot and he was conflicted by what happened to him. Okay, yeah, he was shot by Chewbacca, which we know Chewbacca's weapon can blow people off their feet. We get it. But here's the thing that you forget, okay? He wasn't so conflicted that he couldn't send Rey flying into a tree, which she landed head first up into a tree and then fell down, which, by the way, she should have woke up concussed. She shouldn't have woken up clear enough and ready to be able to get the lightsaber to fly into her hand. She would have been concussed flying into a tree head first. The back of her head even hit the tree. That's the most dangerous part of the neck, the back of the head. That's where it's least protected, right? So she should have been much more hurt. But outside of that, when you say he was just too conflicted to use the Force, that's the problem with Kylo Ren as well for me, right? Because all he had to do, he was told two things. He's actually told one thing. He was told by Snoke to go get the girl. And in this whole movie, we know that whatever Snoke says, Kylo Ren does, right? And Princess Leia even told us, it was Snoke who turned him. Han Solo was trying to tell him, look, it's just Snoke, he's using you. So Kylo Ren is very, 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 very committed to whatever Snoke says. So if Snoke says, just go get me the girl, it is pointless for him to fight the girl. It's actually pointless for him to fight Finn, too. It doesn't make any sense. You freeze them like you did in the early of the movie. Now, if you say, yeah, but he was too conflicted, he had just killed his dad, that's why he couldn't use his Force powers. I gotta call BS on that. Because he took her and flew her into a tree after she called him a monster so that he could fight Finn one-on-one. Right? So it isn't that he was so conflicted. And by the way, the dark side feeds on pain and agony. That's why he was hitting himself in the side. Because he was trying to feed that anger. Feed it so he could be stronger. Because he knows that Rey is strong in the Force. He knows that. So again, the concept, the idea of trying to make a conflicted villain, yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting. But if you don't execute it well, then you make him be just a regular old weakling, which that's supposed to be the hero. The hero's supposed to be weak and then finds his strength because the antagonist is pushing down on him, and that's how he finds himself and gets stronger and ends up winning. That's what Luke Skywalker did, right? He wasn't able to beat his dad the first time he fought his dad, but the second time he was ready, you see. So again, with Kylo Ren, from a writing perspective, where does he go from here? We're going to watch episode 8 to watch him get butched up a little bit so he can finally fight Rey. And I'll tell you right now, if he does that and he beats Rey in this next movie just because he trained, that's lame. That is predictable. That's not interesting at all if that happens. Because all Rey has to do is just train a little bit and she'll still be better than him again. Right? He still took a loss to somebody who wasn't trained as well. So if he's training and she's training, she's still ahead of him. So again, if he's villainous, it's not working. If you want to see him play out like this, it doesn't work. So you might be saying, well, Vegabomber, since you're so smart, then how would you have done Kylo Ren? How would you have kept him villainous and not let him be this way? Well, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you were snarky. I'm glad you commented in that way. Because this is what I would do with Kylo Ren. If I'm going to show him being that way in the first 20 minutes, then he needs to be that way throughout. So in the movie, I don't know. I mean, yeah, you could show him tearing up the console. That was cool once, but doing it twice just seemed to emphasize that he was a real mental midget, and you don't want to do that. You can show that he's unstable. So the first time was fine, but after that, I don't think you needed to show that yet again. I would also say that the decision to take off his helmet, right? I wouldn't have had him take off his helmet when he was sitting in there when he was trying. And I know what they were doing. They wanted to show you that he could act. that Adam Driver can act, because he can. And they wanted you to see his face contorting as he struggled with her and she struggled back. So I get why they took his helmet off, but I would say I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have taken his helmet off then, and I wouldn't have had Snoke tell us that that Han Solo is his father then. It was anticlimactic. It would have been better to know that he was Han Solo's son when Han Solo confronted him on the brig, on that little skiff. That would have been better. So I would have done that. So that way, as you're watching this movie, you can be intrigued by who he is, but you're not thinking that yet. So I think that was a missed opportunity. I would take that out altogether. I wouldn't have Snoke be the one to reveal that. I wouldn't have been. I would have had to be Han Solo and Ben Solo there. I would not have had him take off his helmet as much as he did. And to be quite frank with you, I wouldn't have him... I think another great menacing part for Kylo Ren would have been to have Finn sit in the room, since he noticed that Finn didn't fire his weapon, and torture Finn by making him watch him torture Poe, because he can see that he's scared to fire. So I could see Kylo Ren going, yeah, I know your weapon seems to me that it's pretty cold for a weapon that just came from a raid. And you could just see Finn dropping his head a little bit, and he goes, no matter. Maybe I'll think about reporting you to Captain Phasma. But until then, you're going to watch me do this. And then he makes Finn have to watch him just... And this does two things. It shows how villainous... Now he's a villain, because he's making someone else watch and be in pain by watching, as well as inflicting pain. Plus, he's hiding something over at Finn, telling him, like, hey, at any time I can just turn you into Phasma and let her know what you're doing. So you have to kind of be, you kind of have to kiss my boots at this point. See, this is dark. That's villainous, and that's what he could have done with Finn. It would make sense for Finn at that point, too, for why he would turn. Why he would eventually, because he's being antagonized, right? That would make more sense why he would snap out of it. So, see, Kylo Ren could have been strong in that sense. And so, at the end... Again, controversial, but I would rather have Captain Phasma in here at the end. This is what I would have happen. At the end, when Chewbacca shoots at Kylo, I don't have Kylo just go down to a knee. I have Kylo being knocked off that thing and kind of barely hanging on, and he's bleeding. That's what I would have happen, and then everything else is going on around it. And then Snoke says, "Oh, go ahead, go get him, go pick him up, go get him," and that's what he tells Hux, right? What I would have is I'd have Captain Phasma confront them on the outside, because she's got unfinished business with Finn that she wants to take care of. And then we would have two females fighting for the first time, because Finn would lose, and then Rey would be able to hold her own for a little bit until you could have your ex machina of the ground splitting up and save. But at this point, what's happening is we go back to Kylo, and Kylo's able to get rescued, and he goes back to Snoke, and Snoke is able to then tell us, listen, here's the deal. If you can't be better at this, then maybe I should train the girl. Maybe she should be the one. You see? Look at you. And have Snoke dressing down Kylo Ren right before everything gets ready to blow up as he's getting ready to get on his ship. See, that would show the torment that he feels. And this would make us go, man, that sucks. But I can see why he's mad. I can see why he's angry. And this gives us something else. And then later on, you could show why Han Solo, in 8, why him and Han Solo fell out. But I think you need to show more. And if you're going to use the argument, or if you're going to say in this movie that he struggles with the light side, well, then you needed to have shown that, right? Make it believable. Show us where he's struggling with the light side. All you do is you give us one line that says, Father, I'm struggling with the light side again. I think Snoke can sense it. Okay, you say one line, but show us what's the light side look like in you, right? And what that could look like is that could look like that right when the troopers are ready to shoot Han, you can have them ready to shoot Han, and what's his face? He stops the stormtroopers from hurting Han. Okay, he stops it. He freezes their blaster bolts and sends them on and shuts the door, right? And he makes it look like I'll take care of Han myself, but really he's doing it because, hey, it's his dad. And he does want to confront his dad about what he did. Because he said earlier, when he was talking to Rey, oh, I see that you see Han Solo as a father figure. Well, he would have disappointed you. What would have made that better to make me believe that there was still some good in him is I needed to see it. So that would be one thing. Seeing him defend Han against stormtroopers who were getting ready to blow Han Solo up. That would have been something to say, okay, now I can see evidence of good in Kylo Ren. But at this point, I don't. It's just dialogue telling me that Kylo Ren is good. So anyway, these are some of the things I would do. I would keep that helmet on. I wouldn't have his identity revealed so early in the film. It would be much later. In fact, when Han Solo actually is confronting him, I would have had one scene at least where Kylo Ren does something good, which is that he tries to save Han from being shot even though he knows Han's there, right? Because this would add to the conflict of the good and the light, which we never see the conflict with the good. We just see him killing people throughout the movie and choking people and tearing things up. We never see this tug that's good. We just hear about it. Show us, don't tell us. Show, don't tell. And I think one way you could have done that is you could have had him defend Han Solo against the stormtroopers so that he could bring him in closer so that he could do what he wanted to do. So anyway, these are just my views on it. I'm done with the character studies for now. I know I could do Rey, I know I could do Luke and all this other stuff, but I'm not, because Captain America's Civil War is coming up, and you know my favorite Black Panther is going to be in it. I'm going to be at that movie tomorrow on Friday, so there will be a spoiler and a spoiler-free video, but for now, this is just my last character study on Kylo Ren.